تفضل.
If someone makes a promise and he breaks the promise, and then he makes the promise again, breaks it again, right? So if he breaks the promise again, is the kafara for the one promise? Or let's say, for example, someone breaks the promise, and there's a kafara on that, correct?
Keep going.
So, like, if he breaks it again without making the promise again, is
Clear.
there another kafara?
فهمتك.
And then if he makes the promise again and he breaks it.
Clear. Regardless of, Bismillah, the question with regards to making a promise. The question that says they break the promise without making the kafara. Then they make another promise and they break it again. Or the same one. They make the same promise twice.
Yeah.
Do they have to? Etc. Questioner used the word promise. Allahu alam, whether that's what he means or whether he meant to say an oath. Yameen. Either or. Breaking one's promise is not from the attributes of the believers. Breaking one's oath is not from the attributes of the believers. Rather, we know it's the attributes of the opposite side of the fence. The ugly side of the fence of the munafiqun. May Allah keep us on the other side. Ameen. So what is the ruling? A person violated the same thing more than once. Is there more than one kafara do or not? The safest thing is to do both. Scholars of Islam don't necessarily agree on that with regards to an oath, with regards to hunting, jaza, the sayd, all right? And you didn't yet pay it off. The safest thing is to do what? Both. If a person can't do it, or he took the view that I didn't make the kafara yet for the first time, that's one thing. But the safest thing is to what? Yeah. Wallahu alam.
So,
because it's between a rock and a hard place now. It's one violation, but at the same time it's two violations. Same thing, but you didn't fix it the first time. So technically speaking, the door was still left open.
like the second part, like if he made a promise, and he broke it, but he didn't make it again.
Say that again.
Like it says, made an oath. Like I promise I won't do this again, right? And he does it, right? So there's a kafara for breaking it. What if he does not make that oath again?
But he does
it like so. He does it again without saying without making the oath.
He violated it the first time, so he had to make a kafara regardless. The second time he did it, not necessarily with the intention of making an oath, but he just violated the oath. Safest thing is to do what? Is to cover himself. But there is a difference between making a promise, making an oath, and the actual yameen, which is a yameen. Because the scholars of Islam, they call those things which are called yameen al-laghu. And what you say, Wallah, I'm going to do this, Wallah, I'm not going to do that. And it's not necessarily an actual yameen mun'aqidah. That's why Allah says, وَحْفَظُوا أَيْمَانَكُمْ. Protect your oaths. Wallahu alam.
Anwar Ali, Glen, UK. Assalamu alaikum. What's the ruling of holding Jummah outside of the masjid?
Question is regarding what is the ruling on making Jumu'ah outside of the masjid. Question has to be asked, what's the ruling on making Jumu'ah inside of the masjid? The masjid in which we pray Jumu'ah, is it an actual masjid? Is it a musalla? Is it a jami'? Is there a leader? What is the ruling on having 20 Jumu'ahs in one city? We've explained this before on the channel. And what many of the ulama were very harsh against this. Ta'addud al-Jumu'ah. Ta'addud al-a'yad fil misr al-wahid. Having multiple congregations in one city. Obviously, we know things are very different than how they were back in the day in the time of those earlier in classical scholars. Cities swollen, metropolis, millions of people in one place. However, do we need 30 Eids in one city? Do we need 30 Jum'ahs in one city? Or can we minimize them to 15? So we have to ask serious, hardcore questions. What is the ruling on what we do before the COVID-19 pandemic? By having multiple Jum'ah. Another very important, hardcore question, and I'm going to be the bad guy and opening up the can of worms. What is the ruling on Muslims living in the non-Muslim countries in the manner in which we do? What is the ruling of us living in these non-Muslim countries not having central leadership? Very, very important question. And when these type of problems come up and arise, you really feel the bite and the sting of not having central leadership. And it's pretty much every man for himself. itself. And that's obviously a huge problem. With regards to the unity of the Muslims, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, let alone the chaos and the confusion. And whose fiqh will we go towards? An imam prays a salah and he doesn't believe that it's obligatory to recite the Fatiha. He doesn't believe that it's obligatory to recite this surah or to say this or to do that. But you do. Once you pray behind an imam, it's a different story. Because he is the imam. He's responsible for it now. But now, are we going to pray together? Are we not going to pray together? It's confusing because there's no leadership. And that's the whole purpose. إِنَّمَا جُعِلَ الْإِمَامُ لِيُؤْتَمَّ بِهِ. So all of these issues, praying Jummah inside of the house, praying Jummah in the park, praying Jummah outside of the mosque, they are branches of those issues, all right? And the point that I'm trying to get to, I'm not trying to dance around the answer, I'm trying to make a point here, is that if there's no central leadership, and if most masjids are just musallas, then praying in the house is going to be pretty much like, because there is no one that you're obeying or disobeying. This is a place in which the Muslims face the Qibla. Someone speaks to them, not too different than a musalla in which they pay the rent every month. Or a rehabilitated house, which they don't pay the rent, but it's not a jami' from the ground up. It's not an official mandated thing, an endowment. I understand the point I'm trying to get to? So therefore, me personally, for someone to say that you cannot pray a Jummah in the house, or you cannot pray Jummah outside of the masjid, I'm talking about Western countries, overseas is a different discussion. In America, the UK, to me, they have to bring convincing proof and evidence. And not just the generalities of fatwa. And not just the generalities of a 7th century imam. Or 4th or 5th century imam who lived totally what? Totally different than how we lived. Last but not least is the hardcore question, guys, is that if we don't pray Jummah in the house, or there aren't Jama'at here or there, what are we going to do? Will Jum'ah be abandoned for a month, 2 months, 3 months, until the CDC and the WHO and this leader and this prime minister says, now you can pray Jum'ah? It's a very serious question that we have to ask ourselves. What is the solution to that? Jum'ah is now canceled because of COVID-19. Okay, tayyib. How many weeks are going to go by? And what is the severe danger of not making Jum'ah, the threat of missing Jum'ah intentionally? And of course, we're not saying that it's haram to miss Jum'ah based off of necessity. We're not saying that. Everyone understand this? No one misunderstand us if it's a necessity. But my question is, until what? Until when? I don't want to come to the mosque. I'm afraid of this number. Tayyib. But to make a worldwide cancellation of the best day of the week, Jumu'ah. Yani, Allahu musta'an, yani. How long will that go on? And things not getting any better. Okay, Jumu'ah has been canceled for a month, 3 weeks. Has the curve been flattened? I don't want to be a naysayer or a pessimistic person, but has the curve been flattened? Have the numbers went down? It seemed to go up. So, for argument's sake, one could say, for argument's sake, if the people want to keep getting COVID-19, coughing, sneezing, shaking hands, hugging, touching the wudu station, if they want to keep dying and this is a worldwide pandemic, then why not pray Jumu'ah? This is a serious question. Why not die in Jumu'ah? Why not die in sujood with your brothers if you want to die in your households? If COVID-19 is going to attack you and it's going to reach every corner of the earth like wildfire, and the governments, some of them are clearly saying we do not have control. We do not have control. Just yesterday, it was a small thing. Just yesterday, it was a Chinese thing. Just yesterday, it was a dirty European thing. Now, what are they saying now in the United States? National emergency. Okay? So, if the numbers are still rising, and if the curve is not being flattened, and if social distancing is doing no what? No use, then why not what? That's just food for thought, huh? Make sense what I'm trying to say? If it's not making a difference, if the people are still getting COVID-19, dying in their sleep, everyone is dying of COVID-19, it's spreading, there's no way we can stop the virus, then why not practice our religion? So it's something that we have to be mindful of. Wallahu alam.
AB, Brooklyn, New York. Assalamu alaikum. Why did Musa punch the angel of death? Question
from AB, Brooklyn. Why did Musa alayhi salatu wasalam punched the angel of death? Allah surely knows best. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam was Kalim ar-Rahman. Allahu alam. Maybe Musa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, wanted to live longer with regards to filling his prophecy and his messengership, his risala, saving Bani Israel, spreading the message of Allah more. Allahu alam. We know for sure that Musa alayhi salam did not punch the angel of death out of fear for death or cowardice or him wanting to live longer just for worldly benefit and worldly gain. We know that as a fact. The specifics, Allahu alam, perhaps those are some of the what? Reasons. Was he convinced that that was the angel of death? That he knew for sure that Allah was taking it? So Allahu alam. Allahu alam.
Initials FA, Houston, Texas. Is it haram for a woman to take her husband's last name?
Is it haram for a woman to take her husband's last name? I wouldn't necessarily say it's haram for her to do that. Is it the best thing? That's a different story. Is it the sunnah way? That's a what? Different story. Is it haram? She is not denouncing her lineage. She's not disrespecting her father, her tribe, her clan, but she wants to get married to her husband, Western law, inheritance, legal marriage, etc., the children. That's one thing. Okay? We've explained a few times, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe we need to do an entire lecture on it, inshallah, a thorough lecture and a study of those hadiths with regards to attributing yourself to other than your father. What does that mean? A freed slave attributing himself to other than his mawali, those who freed him. And in our modern time, did the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ and the early Muslims, and also the early non-Muslims, did they even have a last what? Name. When did last names come about? That's a discussion in itself. To the non-Muslims, the person was known as such and such, the son of such and such, the son of such and such, John's son, this son, the son of this one, the person of this tribe. When did the last name system come about? All right. So the point is, the point that I'm trying to get to is that many aspects on how we live, just like the Jumu'ah thing, are what? Different. Our lives are secular. Our governments are secular. There is no central Islamic leadership. There are many things that we do on a daily basis that are against the authentic hadith. And sometimes we don't have a better choice or a better option. Wallahu alam. Sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina Muhammad.